Have you ever listened to a conversation so rich that you had to pause every few minutes just to think? That's what happened when Andrej Karpathy, one of the most thoughtful minds in AI, joined the Dwarkesh podcast last week. Afterward, Karpathy himself wrote a long reflection on X, clarifying what he meant about AGI timelines, animals versus ghosts, reinforcement learning, and what he calls the cognitive core of intelligence. But this post wasn't just commentary. It was a rare window into how one of the most influential AI builders actually thinks about the future. Let's unpack the key ideas. First, his AGI timeline. Karpathy calls this the decade of agents, but he's careful. His timeline is 5 to 10 times more pessimistic than what he calls your neighborhood San Francisco AI house party. In other words, he's not betting on AGI next year, but he's still very bullish that it'll happen within 10. He sees the enormous progress we've made, but also all the grunt work still missing: sensors, actuators, integration into the physical world, safety, alignment, security, all the social and regulatory plumbing that intelligence in the wild will need. So, in his view, 10 years is not slow. It's fast. It just feels pessimistic compared to today's hype. Then comes one of his most fascinating metaphors: animals versus ghosts. He says he's skeptical that there's a single simple algorithm that can learn everything from scratch. Animals, he argues, are not blank slates. They're born with a huge amount of built-in intelligence from evolution. A zebra doesn't need a semester of zebra school. It can walk, run, and even fear predators almost immediately after birth. Humans, on the other hand, are born with instincts but spend decades learning. LLMs, Karpathy says, are a completely different kind of creature. They don't learn like animals, they're more like ghosts. Entities that have absorbed massive patterns of the internet but have never lived in the physical world. They can talk, reason, imagine, but they can't touch, sense, or act. And the frontier of AI research, he says, is about making these ghosts a little more animal-like, giving them sensors, embodiment, and instincts rooted in reality. Then there's his critique of reinforcement learning. He describes RL as sucking supervision through a straw. The signal-to-noise ratio is terrible. Brilliant insights might be punished, and bad completions might accidentally be rewarded. He believes the future lies in new learning paradigms, agentic interaction instead of raw RL. Think of systems that learn through continuous dialogue, reflection, and adjustment, not by getting one reward score after 1,000 attempts. In his words, ChatGPT's memory feature is already a primordial example of this new kind of learning. Not reinforcement, but reinforcement through conversation. And then comes the idea of the cognitive core. Karpathy wonders, what if our inability to memorize perfectly is actually a feature, not a bug? Humans forget. That's why we generalize. He imagines AI systems deliberately stripped of their massive memory, forced to reason rather than recall. He calls this the cognitive core, a smaller distilled version of intelligence that understands rather than hoards. It's the opposite of bigger is better. As he once wrote, models have to first get larger before they can get smaller. The giant LLMs might just be the scaffolding for something leaner and smarter. Karpathy also revisits a thought experiment. If you could time travel back to 1989, how much could you improve Yann LeCun's early neural network results just with modern algorithms? But perhaps the most human part of his post is his honesty about the current limits of LLM agents. He says the industry is overshooting, building tools as if fully autonomous AI workers already exist. He, instead, wants collaboration, not delegation. He doesn't want an agent that disappears for 20 minutes and comes back with 1,000 lines of code. He ends his reflection with a note on education. Children, he says, should learn physics not because they'll all become physicists, but because physics is the best way to boot up the brain, not as a collection of facts, but as a method for thinking clearly about the world. So when people ask, what makes Karpathy different from other AI voices?